Hey y'all, welcome back to MIMS and happy Friday. Things look a little different location, different host. My name is Erika Washington, and I am the executive director of Make It Work Nevada. You may have seen me leaving my 2 cents in the comments when Quentin was our host for Make It Make Sense. This season, we will be talking to community partners. We will be talking to candidates. We will be talking to voters. We're going to talk everything about the midterms. We're going to talk about what the heck even is a midterm. We're going to figure out what we need and who we need it from and how we get it and how we get it right now. So I'm super excited to get started. And y'all be gentle with me because this is my first MIMS that I'm hosting. And we're going to figure this out together. We're going to have a good time. We're going to laugh. We're going to joke. And we're going to realize that politics is a great part of our lives that we need to stay involved in. So in order to get that started, it's going to be our very first guest. And I am super, super excited that we have Danielle Fitzgerald from Plan Action on as our guest to talk to us about what the heck is a midterm. A little bit about Danielle Fitzgerald. She started organizing with NextGen in 2018. Registering and educating young Nevadans on elections. She's a native of the city. Danielle has always been passionate about progressive issues and advocating for a better quality life for low income and working people, which is most of us, to be honest, at this point. After working for a local Las Vegas nonprofit, Danielle is excited to join Plan Action as their new field manager and to work to make sure that voices of Black, Brown, Indigenous, young immigrant communities are heard in this 2022 midterm. Outside of work, she's a dating reality TV connoisseur, loves to be in the kitchen, and is trying to visit as many national parks as she can. I'm so excited to bring Danielle on to Make It Make Sense 2022.
Thank you so much for the intro. Super excited to be here.
I'm excited. So I know we're going to talk about the midterms, but honestly, I need to know this dating reality TV connoisseur. What the heck? What show are you watching and why?
Okay, so the easy answer of why I watch these shows is because of the drama and
Mm-hmm.
seeing people maybe make a little bit of a fool of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a good analysis of human behavior and relationships and how we connect. At least that's the deep answer and how I like to justify my obsession with these shows. But I'm currently watching The Ultimatum, which is
That's on Netflix, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And
I thought about watching it. That's the only reason I know.
yeah, the concept is really messy. Basically, couples, one of them gives an ultimatum to their partner to get married, and basically they're going to do trial marriages with other people in between to see if this person is the love of their life. So
I think that's
basically,
called a starter marriage. I think some folks have had some of those starter marriages.
yeah, they're given like a get out of jail free card, I guess, to date somebody for 3 weeks, but I don't know.
That's so weird. It's so weird. But what it makes me think about, because in this line of work, I can connect everything back to politics.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just my little gift. But I think about, one, it's probably good to watch some stuff like this because it has to take your mind off of the stress of what's going on in the world and, sometimes feeling helpless about what we can and cannot do. But thinking about giving an ultimatum, I'm like, can we do that with elected officials? Can we give it a trial run and see how you do? Because you said you're going to do X, Y, and Z. Let's try it out. No, okay, yet not. We're not going to do it.
That'd be a good way to get some rapid change.
I think so.
You
I
got
think
3 weeks. Go.
right. That's our next reality show.
Yeah.
But on a more serious tip, we're going to talk about the midterms. And one thing that I know, as someone who's been doing this work for a couple years, that a lot of times people have no idea what the midterms are. And I think the reason for that, mostly is that presidential elections are, the popular girl, that gets all the attention. There's a lot of money involved in it. The millions and millions of dollars are spent for candidates to, you know, travel back and forth across the country. And then you have, go to Iowa, go to New Hampshire, go to Nevada. You have all these things happening. And then you have celebrities coming out and stomp for people. It's not the same in a midterm because it's not a presidential election. And that's what people connect to power a lot of times. And so now here we are in a midterm where it's time to vote again. And you have a lot of folks who have no idea that this is happening or why it's important. So I want to ask you, first and foremost, why is it important for us to care that there's a midterm right now?
Yeah, so the midterms are a national election. It's where we're going to vote on some of our US senators and also our House of Representatives, but also a lot of our state representatives. So these are all folks that are supposed to advocate for Nevada and the people that live here on the national and state scale. So it really matters because a lot of the times when we get frustrated about elections, it's because we're not seeing what we want to happen nationally. But a lot of the times we should be focusing on the folks that are right here in Nevada because they are so much more closer to us. They're much more accessible. So when we're participating and paying attention to these elections in the midterms, we can often pinpoint the exact people that will be able to make change on the issues that matter to us.
And I think another thing to bring up is that congressional seats are 2-year terms, which always boggles my mind. How does anyone ever get anything done, in 2 years and have to turn around and beg folks to let them do some more, even though everything takes so long? And then U.S. Senate seats are 6-year terms, and a lot of times those are up during the midterm. And as we know, and as everyone else should realize, is the president only has so much power. The power really lies in the houses, and that's on purpose because that's the whole checks and balances system of not too much power being on one side or the other. But when that happens, we have to make sure that in the midterms we're voting for folks that support the things that we're trying to get done, because when things switch over and then you have a bunch of people who don't agree, then we can't actually move forward, and we end up in these lame duck sort of situations, or whatever you want to call them, where you might have the president that you voted for in office, but then he's not getting the things done because he doesn't have the support from the Senate or the congressional body. But then still the president is the one that usually gets blamed. And they're like, well, the president didn't do anything. It's like, but we do have our part in it as well.
Yes, how I like to talk about it is protecting the investment that you made in 2020 or the last presidential election that happened. Because if you're frustrated, imagine how much more frustrated if you're going to get if there's nobody there to support him in the legislature to get the things that you hope are going to be done.
Or her. One day, or her.
Them. Yes.
Yes, them.
Yes.
Somebody.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you this. It's still early, for most people. It's still early. For us, we've been thinking about the midterm since last year, but it's April. And in a year that's an election that, is in November, how do you start gearing up and talking to people about and informing them that this thing is happening and that they should be interested in it?
I think the perfect thing to talk about is the primary elections that come before the midterms.
And when are the primaries?
Primaries here in Nevada, early voting for it starts in about 6 weeks. It's on Saturday, May 28th is the first day that you can early vote.
Oh, that's like Memorial Weekend too.
Yeah, you're right.
That is Memorial Weekend. We need to have something. We need to have some sort of fun party around that. I didn't even realize that early vote started. But let's go back for a second. The primary, the actual election day for the primary is in June, correct?
Yes, it is Tuesday, June 14th.
Okay. But then there's early vote, where you have
Mm-hmm.
time to do it at your leisure, so you don't have to do it on the 14th and stand in a line or what have you. So we can start as early as May 28th casting our vote for the primaries. And can you explain a little bit about the primaries and why we're having this, and then we have to do it in November again?
Yes. So, and before I get to that, we're super lucky in Nevada to have 2 weeks of early voting time. And then we will also be able to vote by mail too. So you will get, all registered voters will get a mail ballot to their house. So that is a super easy way
So
to
it's like a
get
take-home
involved.
test.
Yes, I always prefer it. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, you could sit there, representative by
And
representative,
Google
office to
them.
office.
You can Google each one of them and find out what they've done, what they haven't done, and if they are even remotely um, good for your life.
Yeah, yeah. But to go back to your question about what a primary election is the election that each political party has to pick the candidate that is going to run up against other candidates of other political parties in November in the general election. So, for example, the Democrats are going to come together to vote about who is going to be the Democrat that is going to represent in November.
Okay. Okay. And so one more time, just because I want to make sure I got it right and that everyone else got it right. Early vote for the primary starts May 28th, Memorial Week.
Saturday, May
Yep.
28th.
While
Yes.
we're getting ready to go out and party and do all the things, so people can do it right before they're partying. That would be
Yep.
great. And then early vote ends when? Because it usually ends before the actual election date.
Yeah, and that's on Friday, June 10th. So that
Yeah.
is the Friday before election day, on the
Okay.
primary election day.
Okay. So we have till June 10th
Mm-hmm.
to do our early vote by mail at home, take home test, sit
Mm-hmm.
there and ask all the questions and have time to really think about who you want to vote for and then drop it in the mail. Or you can look at your whole ballot, but you could still go to a location if you prefer and do
Yes.
it in June and cast your ballot that way.
Yes. And then again, the election day is Tuesday, June 14th.
June
The
14th.
last day for
The
the
last day.
primary.
You got to do it by that day. Don't come on the 15th talking about I'm trying to turn it in. I think we all remember those folks who were trying to turn in their test late.
Yeah.
Everyone did it. Okay. And so this vote by mail thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty new for Nevada. We've just really started getting into it in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And that was due to some changes with it was a ballot initiative, and then it was also through our legislature that we have this opportunity, which I think gives more access to people, folks who may not have reliable transportation all of the time, people who have to work odd hours, people who have children, people who want to watch dating shows and want to finish the whole season all at once. You got an opportunity to do that and still have time for some civic engagement. I
Mm-hmm.
think it gives us a lot of options. And I think it puts us in a really unique place because not all states have this, so
Yeah.
we are lucky in being able to do that. And I think it's really important that we stress that we have as many options as possible so that so many people will have an opportunity to cast their ballot. So if they're not registered to vote, what do they do?
Mm-hmm.
Because they can still register right now so that they can vote for the primaries. Is that correct?
Yes, you can still register to vote. And we also have same day registration here in Nevada. So that means if whatever's going on in your life, but election day comes and you know that it's important for you to get out and vote, and you said, I got to go do this today, you can still register to vote the same day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And where would they go to do that?
You can do it right at the polling place.
Okay.
So it'll take a little bit of time. You have to fill out the registration form and do that whole process before you then go to vote. But you can do that,
Mm-hmm.
which is great, because that used to be a huge problem of new voters, particularly not knowing that they weren't registered, or maybe they didn't do it right. There was a problem with it. So they go and show up to vote on election day, and it was too late. They wouldn't have the opportunity. But now same day voter registration helps that.
No, I think that's an excellent idea. And we also have automatic voter registration. So when you have to go down to the DMV everyone's favorite place to go and spend a lot of time, because you have to, renew your tags for your vehicle, or you have to renew your driver's license, or, change your address, things like that. You can do it automatically right there. They'll basically do all of that for you if you tell them that you are, wanting to do that. Well, I guess I should ask this question. Even if you go in and you don't mention it because you don't know that it's automatic voter registration, is it still happen, or do you have to make mention of it in some way?
I believe so. Either they always bring it up, but I think when you are changing like your address, something that is going to affect the people that you're voting for, that automatically updates. Okay. Unless I think you specifically ask it not to, but I haven't done it myself. I haven't been to the DMV in a minute. That's a great thing.
Okay, lucky you.
Yeah, right. But I believe that's how it works.
Okay. And let's get back to this, the voting by mail, voting from home, basically. When would folks expect to get their ballot in the mail so that they can start, looking at it and researching and understand what offices are up?
Yeah, for the primary election, voters should be able to receive their mail ballot by Tuesday, May 31st. So that's a couple of days after the early voting starts. So basically, within the first days of voting that you can vote in person, you should have your mail ballot sent to you.
Okay. And if you don't have your mail ballot by a certain date, is there a place people can go online or somewhere to pick one up?
Yeah, most of the time we forward people to the Clark County Election Department here in Clark County, or whatever election department in the county that you're in. You would contact them, and depending on the date that you're contacting them, they'll either resend it out, you can go pick one up, or you can just choose at that time to go vote in person, if that's what makes sense.
Okay. And so in this primary, well, I should say in this entire midterm election, there are a lot of seats. There are a lot of folks running for office. I don't even know the number of how many. I looked earlier, I think this week, to count, and then I just like, it's a lot of people. There's a lot of people running, but it's, basically all of our constitutional offices, the governor, U.S. Senate that's up, congressional seats that are up, the Attorney General. We have mayors for North Las Vegas and Henderson, I believe. We also have some city council seats, state assembly, state senate seats. We have some incumbents, that are, running again, and we have some new folks throwing their hat in. School board. We got some folks running for school board here in Clark County. There's so many seats. It can feel overwhelming, even to someone who works in this line of work. And all seats do a lot of different things, right? So there's not one that I necessarily think that we need to know about all of them, because they all have to work in concert a little bit. But let me ask you, what seat is most important to you? What are you really thinking about this upcoming election, and why?
Yeah, I thought of two things. The first one is our state assembly and our state senators. I think here in Nevada, we're relatively a smaller state compared to other folks, and that is also the amount of representatives we have in our state senate and our state assembly. And those folks are usually very accessible. So I get excited about them just because they are often really normal people like we are. They still have day jobs. And those are people that you can tweet to, you can contact them on social media, you'll see them out in the community. And it opens up so much opportunity to be able to actually reach out and speak to them and advocate for yourself and for your community. But I'm also very excited about our Attorney General, Aaron Ford. I'm just a big fan. I think he's a great guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're big fans over here as well. We don't endorse anybody, but he certainly has a record of being on the right side of work that we have worked on when he was a senator. And so I think we also have to look at the history of folks, because some folks have held multiple offices. Our governor has held multiple offices. He was a county commissioner, and he was also, I think, a board regent. So there's a lot that you can look at to really understand how someone, views things and thinks about our state and the world that we live in and what our place is. And I think it's important that we do spend a little bit of time learning their backgrounds and where they come from, what their values are, and do they align with us and what we believe and what we need, because everything I think feels so far away when you say governor or attorney general. That's, how often do you see them, on a regular basis? But they affect our lives. So if someone affects your life that much, you might want to know a little bit about them,
Yep.
So thinking about that and thinking about the primary. Now, everyone's not in the primary election, because a primary election is to, for lack of a better word, weed out, some of the candidates, because there are 5 or 6 or 7 candidates that run for the same seat, and they might be part of the same party. And so you have to narrow that down. Who's the best person for this party and the best person for this party? And then they run against each other in the general. And then that's how we, get to the bottom of that. So I think the primaries are really important. And, we really want to stress the importance of, voting in a primary, because you have a lot more choices in the primary. You get to the general, and over the years we've heard, the conversations around, nobody's any good, picking the lesser of two evils or what have you. And I don't think that's always the case. But if it is, we got to catch it early in the primaries and find the folks who are better on the issues and care about the community in that way, and let our voice be heard there, and then carry on through into the general. Now, the general election is when? That's in November. What's the date again for that?
That is Tuesday, November 8th is election day.
Yes, because it's always the second Tuesday.
Yes.
Yes, but we'll also have early vote for that too.
Yes, which will start Saturday, October 22. So a little bit before Halloween. And then the early voting is going to end on Friday, November 4th. So again, it's always pretty much the Friday before the election day on Tuesday. So, and that's a good thing to mention too, because a lot of time folks will think, oh, I'll go the weekend before election day, not realizing that early voting is not available then. So it's just important to remember that.
Yeah, it is very important, because I think sometimes folks might mistake early vote to last all the way up until election day. But there's that little gap. I think it gives folks a break, the election folks a break, to be able to get everything together for actual election day, because
Their
it's
life
a long,
together.
tough day. Right. It's a long, tough set of days right there, because it doesn't end just on election day. You still have to make sure you're counting all the ballots right and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into it. So election day in November, I think that it feels really far away, but it's not actually that far away. We have school board races coming up. And, I think one good way for us to think about school board races is, are we attending the school board meetings, right now? Because maybe if you are unfamiliar with who's running or how things are going, you attend a couple school board meetings, and you can usually watch them online as well. Same way you can watch us online. And we and you can kind of see what's going on and be able to ask some questions. And then when you do see these folks out, because there are going to be events there, I'm sure Memorial Weekend, there are going to be some events with a lot of candidates out wanting to talk to voters, wanting to make sure they know who their name is. And when you see them, ask them the questions. So do you have any suggestions on someone who is maybe a little timid around the idea of voting and trying to talk to a candidate to ask a question? What advice would you give a potential voter? Maybe they're a new voter, or just one who hasn't spent a lot of time in the presence of an elected official or a candidate. What advice would you give them to talk to them?
The advice that I would give is just to remember that they're people. They're a person like you and I, and no matter what office they hold and what importance and the responsibilities are, is that they're another human being. And also their job is to represent you. Their job is to serve you and to advocate for you. So I would just remember that nobody has to be an all-knowing, all-knowledgeable, very eloquent, put together person in order to talk to somebody that represents you. That might be a little bit of their job, but that's not your job as a person. So it's just sharing what is going on in your life and the issues that matter most to you. And just remember, they're another person. Talk to them like your best friend. Talk to them like other people out in the community.
Yeah, there is a point of we can still be respectful to those who may not have all of our um, they may not have all of our love
Mm-hmm.
just to be nice, but and we don't have to vote for them, right? And we can certainly also question their tactics and motives if they are doing anything questionable. I think that is also important. Holding folks accountable um, in every way is really important, but the idea that yes, they are people and we
Mm-hmm.
are people and they are not better than us, and our stories matter, and that's something that Make It Work Nevada we have said over and over and over again. Tell your story,
Mm-hmm.
talk about what's going on in your life, because it matters, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. If we are having trouble paying the new exorbitant rent prices, if we're having trouble with having reliable transportation or finding a reliable job that gives us enough hours that we can afford to live,
Mm-hmm.
these are the stories that they need to know. And as someone who has spent a lot of time with elected officials, spent a lot of time in Carson City and elsewhere talking to folks, and in Washington, D.C., a lot of times we'll come back and we'll tell some of these stories secondhand that we've heard, and they'll be shocked and surprised. I didn't know this was happening. I didn't know that, there were this many people struggling with affordable childcare, that paid leave was such an issue for folks that they really felt like they couldn't take time off to care for themselves in any way. And if they don't know, they can't act on it. And so we can't be ashamed that we're having a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have to make it known so that we can change policy.
Yep, you gotta. Yeah, we have to communicate, and as I think, as frustrating as sometimes participating in this process and not getting the outcomes that we're hoping for can be, I don't think the answer is disengaging or not participating in the process and having less people involved in our democracy. I think the answer is always going to be more communication, and more people is what is going to move us forward.
I agree. I agree. So we've spent almost a half hour talking about midterms, and I think that people have gotten a point. We care about midterms. Midterms are important, and where everyone's going to go and do their take home test and vote. I think we've got that down. So I'm going to ask you this, because I mentioned in your bio that you really like these reality shows, but you also said you like to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. So I would like to know what you're doing in the kitchen. What are you cooking?
So I grew up cooking Italian food because that's the culture of my family.
I love Italian food.
Yes,
What are
but
you making?
then yeah, but then I decided to stop eating meat.
Oh,
So I can't make the meatballs, I can't make the sauce.
Beyond Meat is available.
True. So that perfect segue. So now what I do is a lot is I experiment with all the recipes, all the different cuisines, whether or not I have experience in them or not,
Hmm.
and making them meat free or vegan.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I like experimenting with that. And again, I'm not like constricted to one kind of food. I like to challenge myself and make foods that I've never made before, different vegetables, different ingredients that I have no idea. Like I've
Yeah.
never really eaten them. So yeah, it's like a little hobby.
Okay. I think we need to have a Make It Make Sense with pasta. That might be the
Oh.
next episode. So our next show, which air April 29th, is when we'll be back, and we'll be talking about more midterm stuff. But hopefully later in the year you'll come back and remind folks about the primaries and the general and what's going on, or whatever you're hearing out there that we need to know. And also, if folks want to get more information about the midterms, they can certainly come to makeitworknevada.org. That is our website, but they also can go to planaction.org to get information. There's no competition. Whatever website you feel like going to, whoever you feel like talking to, because we're all in this together. We all just want folks to make sure their voices are heard and that their issues are taken care of, so that one day you can put me out of a job, because then everybody's happy and everybody has what they need to make it work. So thank you, Danielle.
Thank you so much. It was a joy.
I enjoyed chatting with you. I enjoy thinking about what food you're going to make, and I don't mind vegan, so I'm ready for it. And I love Italian food, so
All right, then I owe you some food.
why, thank you. All right. Thanks, y'all. Welcome to the new season of Make It Make Sense with me, Erika Washington. We will be back on April 29th and talking about the midterms. Thanks, y'all.